Before that, he served as legislative director to U.S. Representative Earl Pomeroy from North Dakota and legislative assistant to former U.S. Senator Clinton Burdick, focusing on energy and natural resources. He is the chairman of the Government Relations Committee of the Center for LNG and serves on the board of directors of the Business Government Relations Council and National Gas Roundtable. He is a past chairman of the Legislative Committee of the Interstate Natural Gas Association of America, chairman of the Government Relations Committee of the Domestic Petroleum Council, and chairman of the Legislative Committee of the American Gas Association. He was raised on a farm near Valley City, North Dakota. He attended the University of North Dakota, earning a BA in poli-sci and a BS in public administration. He's married to Ann McKay and has 3 children, Justin, Campbell, and Jackson, who resides in Great Falls, Virginia. And right now, I'll welcome Mr. McKay. And I don't know, would y'all prefer to speak individually and then answer questions?
Whatever you prefer.
Okay, that's
okay.
Good
Good morning, everyone. I appreciate the chance to be here. As was mentioned, I grew up on a farm in North Dakota. Just think a lot like this without the accent and grits and some other southern effects. But equally good people. I spent a lot of time here lately. It does remind me a lot of home, and I appreciate that. It's good to get out of Washington. I spent a long time there, and to get outside the Beltway for some months, as I've been doing, is kind of cleansing to get back to a little bit of reality. I'd like to mention a couple of my colleagues here that are here today. Tanya Evans from Duke, one of the partners in the Pipeline project, and Rosemary Weish with the firm of Eckel & Bond. It's a Raleigh-based public affairs firm, and they're helping us in the communities identify important audiences and communicate about the pipeline. So they're here today as well. And there may be a question that will come up that Tanya with Duke will answer. So, as was mentioned, I'm with Dominion Resources. We're a Richmond-based company. Around here in North Carolina, we own Dominion North Carolina Power. But in Virginia, we own Virginia Power. We own Dominion East Ohio Gas, which is the gas utility that serves Cleveland, for example. We have an interstate pipeline company that's run out of West Virginia. We have interstate pipes that throw out Ohio, Pennsylvania, up into New York, Maryland. We have a liquefied natural gas terminal over in Maryland. So we're a very diverse company. So this pipeline project is right in our wheelhouse, and it came about by a request for proposals that Duke and Piedmont did a while back. They issued a call to the market and said, someone come forward with suggestions on how to get gas in certain volumes at certain points by certain time frames. And Dominion was one of several companies that thought this was a great opportunity for us. It's in our region, it's what we do. We won that competition, and it ultimately turned into a joint venture where we are all partners in the project and investors. In addition to Piedmont, Duke, Dominion, AGL Resources out of Atlanta, which is the parent company of Virginia Natural Gas, which serves the Hampton Roads area. So that's the ownership structure, but Dominion will build and operate the plant for the joint venture. A couple facts on it. It's about a 550-mile line. It will start in West Virginia, come down through Virginia, and then ultimately into North Carolina, almost to the South Carolina border, paralleling 95 most of the way. The price is $4.5 to $5 billion, which is a very big investment. It's a very big project. I don't think there are many bigger energy projects underway in the U.S. right now than this one. It will carry 1.5 billion cubic feet of gas per day. If you're not in the gas business, you don't know what that means. Rich would say 1.5 billion cubic feet of gas per day is a lot of natural gas. Tremendous volume. A lot of that will be used for power generation. Duke has closed a number of coal-fired power stations recently and built new gas-fired power stations due to environmental regulations and the abundance of cheap natural gas that the country is blessed with today. So that's where a lot of the gas will be used, and then a lot of it will go to Piedmont Natural Gas, which is the gas utility company that serves the communities in the area. Dominion will be taking some for our own power generation in Virginia as well. Size of the pipe in Virginia, in West Virginia and Virginia, it's 42 inches. Very big pipe. As it comes down this area, it's 36 inches. Again, very big pipe, and that's why it can carry as much gas as it can. It's buried, first of all. We take for granted that everybody understands about our business, and it's surprising how many people come up and say, I need to ask, is this thing we get to see this above ground? No, it's not like the pictures you see in Alaska where the pipeline is above ground for its own reasons. It's buried in a trench, at least 3 foot of dirt over the top of it. In agricultural areas where farmers will continue to farm after it goes in, we put another foot or 2 so that heavy equipment can go over the top of it. So, you know, among the benefits of the pipeline that we talk about regularly, reliability and abundance of gas, certainly for power generation. The region's very reliable, relies heavily on one interstate pipeline, Transco, for its gas supply, and you really don't want that. You want to have another backup supply into the region, so this will bring redundancy of supply, and it will lower prices. We had an economic firm recently run models on what it means to bring 1.5 billion cubic feet of gas into a region that's currently constrained, and they concluded annually it will save customers about $377 million between the 2 states of Virginia and North Carolina, compared to what would be the case without this new pipeline. So it's significant. Property tax revenue, very significant. We'll pay annually, and we pay it, not the landowners, about $25 million up and down the route. Nash County will get about $750,000 or more annually to the county in property tax. North Carolina completely, all told, will get over $6 million. It's for the counties that have the pipe up and down the route. And that depends on how many miles of pipe you have in a county, determines the amount and what the tax base is, of course, the tax rate. Talk a little bit about the process of where we are right now. This gets permitted by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission in Washington. Because it's an interstate natural gas line, that's where we go for the permit. That's not to say that we don't have to get dozens, literally dozens of other permits from state and local agencies, from all the states and other federal agencies. But FERC is the one at the end of the day that will determine whether or not it is a project in the public need and convenience and should be built. Okay, so we're in the early stages of that. We're in something called pre-filing right now. This is a time where we go out and begin identifying our route. We hold meetings in the communities, identify issues. So far there have been 37 public meetings held up and down the route, 3 different sets of meetings, if you will. We did a round of open houses early on where we set up, and perhaps some of you came by our open houses, bring our experts into the community, talk to landowners, other stakeholders. Then we did another round of open houses, and then recently in FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, held what they call scoping meetings. And they held 3 in North Carolina, 4 in Virginia, and 2 in West Virginia. We just completed earlier in the week. So far, we've had over 7,000 people attend these 37 meetings that have been held to date. So we try to get word out and help people understand what it's all about, and quite frankly, dispel some myths that we hear along the way as well. Something this big and this new does not come without some hiccups. There are some people that are opposed to it. I find oftentimes when you explain what the project is all about, you answer some of those people, turn around and go, okay, that's different than what I anticipated. That's not to say everyone will be for it at the end of the day. Some people believe we should stop drilling for natural gas and use nothing but renewables. We don't think we can get there anytime soon for that. But by and large, we enjoy a lot of support, a lot of elected official support, county resolutions, all 3 governors of the state, federal elected officials. They're excited about the opportunity to bring this kind of new natural gas in. We were talking earlier today, it's safe to say that around the country, communities with abundant supplies of natural gas do better than those without, if I could describe it in the simplest terms. The U.S. has abundant supplies because of hydraulic fracturing and horizontal drilling technologies. We are the envy of the world because of how we can produce gas at the prices that we can in the U.S. And it's going to be a boon for the decades to come, and it's going to boost our economy. I sat recently with a couple leaders from Eastern Europe, and they were in our office in Washington, and if you could see the look on their face when they talked about sitting over in Eastern Europe, and they say, you think you've been through hard times here with the recession, so you have no idea what deindustrialization looks like, what we've been through. And they said, and now we watch the U.S. with its cheap natural gas, and we see companies from Germany like BASF, a global conglomerate, coming to the U.S. and building a brand new plant in Louisiana because of abundance of natural gas. We literally are the envy of the world. The technology was invented here. We have an economic system with the ability to raise capital, the ability to do deals with landowners, the legal system, contracting, pipelines, all of these advantages that cannot be quickly duplicated overseas. So the U.S. is going to take advantage of it, and our company's Pipeline will help that happen. Just want to touch on a few other issues before I turn it over. Things that have come up along the way that I want to address, and then we'll answer some questions. Safety is a question that always comes up. High pressure pipelines rightfully cause people to, are they safe? Accidents do happen. They're extremely rare, but really in anything we do in life, something does go wrong. An occasional plane crashes, and it's a disaster, but we all get on a plane and we do everything we can to minimize that. The pipeline industry is among the safest industry there is. Their chances of being affected by a bee sting are much greater than a pipeline. So here are the things that happen to make sure pipelines are safe. We just placed an order for $400 million worth of pipe from a Pennsylvania steel mill. They'll roll a big pipe for this. By the way, they're going to add 150 people to a second shift, and they're going to basically, we're going to own that plant for the next year once we start that project. 150 people, family-owned, 100-year-old steel mill south of Harrisburg. So there will be inspectors in that mill making sure that the pipe is rolled to standard. When the pipe is taken out and a trench is dug and we're putting it in the ground, the pieces are welded together. We x-ray those welds afterwards. And if the weld isn't perfect, it's cut and it's re-welded. The pipe gets put in the ground, we put water in it, we pump it up to a pressure far beyond what it will ever be when it's carrying gas to make sure that it doesn't leak. And then we cover it up. From there, it's monitored 24 hours a day out of a control center that we have in West Virginia. We regularly inspect it, we walk the line, we fly the line. The pipe is coated. All these things are done every day to make sure it's safe. So today's technology, the equipment, the materials that go into it, it's really state of the art. So people should not be unnecessarily concerned about safety. Excuse me. Agriculture, as I mentioned earlier, if someone farms today, the pipe goes in, and they can farm after the pipe goes through. We will compensate a landowner, a farmer, for the year that the pipe goes in because you won't have a crop on that land. And then we'll double that because we know that after we cover it up, and by the way, we take the topsoil, put it off to the side, dig the trench, put the pipe in, cover it up, put the topsoil back on top. But it takes a couple years for the land to get back to the level of productivity it had prior, so we double the payment of lost crop year. Forestry, we also understand that, especially in this area, forests are a crop. It may not be annual, it may be 10, 15 years. So we're working on making sure that there's a compensation formula for the landowner that recognizes that it's a long-term cycle, but it is a cycle nonetheless. Taps along the line, that's something that comes up regularly. Excuse me. Think of this pipeline like Interstate 95. Every business and homeowner doesn't have a driveway off 95. It's limited access, it has the interchanges. And then you have the roads, the secondary roads and the streets that take the traffic once it gets off the highway. Piedmont Natural Gas, for example, in much of the eastern part of the state, they're the company that owns the streets and the roads. So they're a partner in this. Piedmont has already announced a plan to invest $100 million in a project to expand its system now that they have new supplies of gas at higher pressures. So they now can reach into more industrial parks, communities, and such. And that doesn't mean there won't be opportunities to take gas directly off the line, but it would require a very big customer to justify, or a very big industrial park to justify a direct tap off it. More than likely, the gas would go to Piedmont, and then they would run a line to serve the specific customer. That's not to say there won't be direct taps. Again, it just won't be one in every industrial park along the way in hopes of attracting customers. You don't build these ahead of time with hope, but rather when you're marketing an industrial park, the ability to go to a potential customer and say, gas is there in plentiful supplies, it's nearby, and here's how it can be brought to that park to help attract and recruit business. One other question we get asked regularly is, why can't this just run down the side of 95 and not go across farmland? The answer to that is that if you drive along 95, as you know, development tends to grow around the intersections, the interchanges. So you would end up going along, and then you'd have to go way out around all the gas stations and the other businesses, and then you would go for a while, and you'd have to do that again. And most governments prefer that you not place new limits on the ability to grow around those areas. So that's why we stay a few miles away from 95, but the line does roughly parallel 95. So I think that's probably all that I'll cover for this portion, and hopefully there will be some questions about this in a couple minutes as well.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. I really appreciate that. We'll now move on to our next speaker, who is Rich Worsinger. Many of you know him. He has been here for about 14 years now. He's with the city, and he is the Energy Resources Director for the city. He is responsible for Rocky Mount's municipally owned electric and natural gas utilities. Rocky Mount right now serves approximately 27,000 electric and 17,000 natural gas customers. He was born and raised in Philadelphia. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Electrical Engineering from Drexel University in Philadelphia, and he's licensed as a professional engineer in North Carolina. Before moving here, he worked with the Public Service Electric and Gas Company in New Jersey, which is an electric and gas utility servicing over 2 million New Jersey customers. He serves on the boards of the American Public Gas Association, APGA Security and Integrity Foundation, Carolina's Public Gas Association, North Carolina Eastern Municipal Power Agency, and the U.S. DOT Pipeline Safety Standards Committee. He's also served on the board and is past president of the North Carolina Association of Municipal Electrical Systems. He's married to Nancy Worsinger and has 2 children, Chris and Libby. We welcome Mr. Worsinger.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning. I've been involved in the gas industry since I got out of school back in 1984. First working for an investor-owned utility up in New Jersey, and now been 14 years down here in North Carolina. And I was just asked to really be here to answer some questions, but I also wanted to talk about what this means to Rocky Mount and our area. And I'm just going to touch on a few things and then hopefully be able to answer your question. Bruce touched on safety, and I'd like to expand on that a little bit. The transportation of natural gas by pipelines is the safest way to move that energy. There are very few incidents that happen throughout the country. And when you read about a pipeline incident or a natural gas explosion, it's typically very old infrastructure. It's not built to the standards that pipelines, as Bruce mentioned today. One thing he did not mention is the internal inspections that new transmission lines are required to be performed. They actually run a device called a pig down the inside of the pipe, and it can inspect the internal side inside of that pipe and lets you know if there are any voids starting to develop in the outside of the coating or in the pipe itself, heading off potential leaks, and they can be repaired long before a leak occurs. In my bio, it was mentioned I serve on the Federal Department of Transportation's Pipeline Hazardous Material Safety Administration's Advisory Committee. There is a committee composed of 15 members, 5 from the public, 5 from government, and 5 from industry. And what we do is we evaluate the various regulations that DOT is proposing to implement on the various pipeline industries. And it's an honor to serve on that committee. I'm one of the members from industry. I've been involved with that with the members who are not only from small systems like Rocky Mount, but the large interstate pipelines such as Dominion and the others. Those people are professionals. The last thing they want to have is an incident. Safety is number one in this industry. The next thing I'd like to touch on is economic development. I'm sure some of you know Oppie Jordan. If you have a chance, talk to Oppie about the various economic development prospects that have come to this area who were a large user of natural gas. And unfortunately, we do not have a large supply of natural gas available in this area. And the conversations, whether it was with the city or typically with Piedmont Natural Gas, if you're a little bit east of the city, it would be, the conversation starts with it's going to cost $50 million to reinforce Piedmont's natural gas system, and it'll take 2 to 3 years. As you can imagine, if you're looking to locate your business here, 2 to 3 years and having to spend $50 million, you're going to move on to one of those communities, as Bruce mentions, that already has an abundant supply of natural gas. We've heard the discussions about the possibility of an automotive assembly plant out at the Kingsborough site, which would be a game changer for our region. I'll be honest with you, I don't know how much natural gas an automotive assembly plant would use, if any. But I do know that there will be a lot of industry businesses that grow up to support that in our area. Housing developments, pizzerias, Chinese food places, the places that are going to supply the lunches to the business meetings they'll have. They are going to need a supply of natural gas. There also is in the northeast part of the city a company called Edgecombe Genco. You might have known them before when they were Cogentrix. They burn coal to generate electricity. We all know that we are looking at the end of the use of coal to generate electricity. I'm sure there will be a time when Edgecombe Genco, in order to comply with all the various environmental regulations, will have to stop burning coal. If there was not a supply of natural gas for them to change over to, that business would go away, as would the taxes and the jobs. They are situated at a wonderful location. They have access to both the transmission lines of Dominion, electric transmission lines of Dominion, and the electric transmission lines of Duke. So they have the possibility of serving 2 customers. That is a great possibility, economic development for our area, and this would be a supply of natural gas for them. Last, for Rocky Mount itself, we operate our own small distribution company. We serve about 17,000 customers. We don't buy our gas from Piedmont, but Piedmont Natural Gas delivers it to us. Because the pipeline that serves the state of North Carolina, called Transco, is over in the Goldsboro area. It's 100 miles from here. I actually had looked a number of years ago at what the cost would be to extend a pipeline from Rocky Mount over to Transco to bypass Piedmont, hopefully see if we could reduce our cost. It was cost prohibitive. Just wouldn't work. We looked at actually partner with the cities of Wilson and Greenville. We still couldn't make the numbers work. When I learned that there was a pipeline being built in our backyard that's actually going to go right between Rocky Mount and Nashville and cross our gas distribution lines in 4 locations, I was thrilled. So this is wonderful for us. I've had discussions with people at Dominion about providing a tap for the city of Rocky Mount. Early on, Dominion had mentioned they would like to provide or considering providing a tap for the county for economic development purposes. I've told them that we are very interested in doing that. I know Nash County is not interested in having that tap for their purposes. They've said, no, Rocky Mount operates the gas system in our area, and that's who you should provide the tap to. And we do. Our gas lines extend, well, we supply gas to Universal Leaf, just south of Castalia. We're out past Sandy Cross. We supply a number of the farmers out there that use natural gas to process tobacco in their crops. Before they were using propane at 2 to 3 times the cost of what natural gas is. We would like to have that tap for Rocky Mount to supplement that gas supply we get from Piedmont Natural Gas. Might be a time when the cost of gas coming over the Transco pipeline and across Piedmont becomes very expensive. We could possibly use that supply from that pipeline, the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. And with that, those are the things I just wanted to mention. I figured we'd be here to answer any questions that y'all want to ask us.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now I would like to open up the floor for questions. Anybody have any questions for either Mr. Worthing or Mr. McKay? Don't be shy.
I'm the county manager of Nash County, and you mentioned $700,000 taxes in Nash County, which suggests about $110 million in value if you're just talking about property tax. Could you give us that information on where you came up with that number and how that's distributed? I suspect we're not talking about a pipeline value of $110 million just in Nash County, so there might be other taxes that you're including in that figure that may go to entities other than Nash County, so.
Well, that's a property tax number for Nash County.
Totally proper.
Right, we have a tax department in our headquarters, and they set out doing a project to come up with what those estimates would be for every county in the 3 states, using what they know of formulas and rates today.
Okay.
I can try to get you more on that methodology. I sure am not the guy. I have a list.
You
Okay.
need to get it in for
2017.
But they do that. $100 million just in Nash County on value sounds good.
Doesn't have value until they run pipe through. Doesn't have value until they run gas through.
Paid on that property today. So what you're reading
Just the
is
value of the steel.
whoever the landowner today is paying those taxes, that'll just shift down to your company paying the tax, or is that incremental tax?
We're buying an easement, so we aren't owning the property. That landowner will still pay property tax on the line. And down here it will be a 50-foot wide easement, so they will still pay that. Money I'm talking about is on top of current tax.
It's true incremental.
Right. I recognize one thing I failed to mention is the timeline for this project. We hope to have approval from FERC in late 2016 and begin construction. It'll take about 2 years. We could be operational in sometime mid to late 2018. A project like this takes as long to plan and design and get permitted as it does to build. That's just the nature of things today.
Yes.
What easement restrictions are there in addition to the 50-foot wide easement?
Don't stand up, so you can't build a permanent structure on top, and you can't grow trees with the deep root system. You can have a temporary structure. People will put something on skids, sometimes a hunting shack in some areas. But you can't have anything that goes into the ground. Beyond that, that's about it. You can raise it, you can farm it, you can hunt on it, and recreate.
Now, I've heard that there's a further restriction, 1,000 feet or something of that sort on it. Are there any other restrictions?
No, not beyond the 50. No, I could show you maps, especially in Virginia, where there's such growth in northern Virginia. We have pipelines where a line went through 10, 15 years ago, and now there are $700,000 homes right up to the edge of the right-of-way. And some places, $1 million homes. It is really right at the edge of it. And people choose to do that. They've done the research, and I have a neighbor actually where I live, and our son spends a lot of time there, a friend of theirs. And they have a big pipeline that goes right through Great Falls, Virginia, where I live. And I asked him about it lately. I said, how do you feel about that pipeline going by? He goes, well, as far as I'm concerned, it keeps anyone else from building there. It's just green space for them. And my son, he's smaller, when it snowed, they always went to slide on the pipeline, because the pipeline went downhill, clear open area.
Any further? Joe?
I don't live near my house, but that's not what I'm right by there. But anyway, 2 things. One, you mentioned state-of-the-art pipe construction. There's been a recent explosion on a recently built pipeline. I assume it was built to the state-of-the-art as well. And number 2, there are no taps, as I understand it, for Nash County or even for eastern North Carolina as a whole. Isn't that correct?
It's too early to know exactly where taps are going to go. We've got a long way to go for business development. People are still talking with counties and economic development authorities and potential customers along the way, like Rocky Mountain here. So I just can't say today where they will or won't be.
Well, the criteria that you have though for establishing taps, we don't meet it in Rocky Mountain, as I understand it. We don't have the sufficient industry or whatever the criteria require. Nor is there any throughout the entire eastern North Carolina, isn't it correct?
Well, like I said, we just don't have it identified yet. We just don't know. And that if you don't put a tap in when the pipeline goes through, you can come back and add a tap if a potential customer is there. There's no reason why you can't, with a certain type of volume requirement, say, okay, let's put a tap in the line.
And I can tell you, I spoke with one of your employees at Dominion just yesterday about the tap for Rocky Mountain, and he said he will be contacting me to come and visit Rocky Mountain the next couple of weeks to put his eyes on what we actually have down here, look at our system, and start talking about the location for it's at.
Yes.
It was stated earlier that some of the accidents had occurred from old infrastructure. What is the life cycle for this pipe?
There is no determined life cycle. You really monitor it over time. The way it's constructed, the materials used today, the way you inspect it, there is no end point. It could easily go 100 years or more. If we're using natural gas 100 years from now, we don't know.
No, the pipes have a coating on the outside. Just like we paint things, paint metal so it doesn't rust. Well, pipes, gas pipelines, have a coating on the outside, more sophisticated than simply pipe. And the steel pipes that Rocky Mountain uses in its distribution system have this coating. And it's to keep that pipe from contacting the ground, which creates an electrical circuit, which then allows for corrosion to take place. Well, pipelines are coated. They actually have a small current imposed on them to counteract the effect of any kind of corrosion. And the pipelines are monitored. We do it here in Rocky Mountain. Anywhere that has buried underground steel gas lines does the same thing. And as long as you're impressing that current on there, a very small amount, it counteracts any corrosion.
And the biggest source of incidents that happen or accidents on pipelines is from third-party damage, where someone else has dug in to an area. They did not call before they did, which we constantly, governments, everyone else probably have radio ads here. So we do make a great effort to make sure people understand where it is, neighbors know where it is, contractors know where it is, so that we can come out and mark the area to keep anyone from going in and hitting it.
And in North Carolina, the call before your dig law was just recently became more up to standard what it should be, where it requires everybody that operates an underground facility to participate. They've got a couple of years to comply with this, depending upon how many customers you have. But by 2016, everybody that operates any kind of underground facility has got to participate, including the State Department of Transportation. They also have to call. They're one of the ones that right now they feel they own the roadway, so if they're digging on the roadway, they don't have to notify anybody if they're digging. Well, that law is changing, require them to notify the utilities. So if they're going to put a guardrail in, or they're going to put a stop sign in, or something like that, they've got to call so that we can locate our underground facilities. The third-party damages are Rocky Mountain's #1 cause of gas leaks. And I was thrilled to see that legislation went through that created that higher standard for everybody to comply with, to call before you dig. And that includes us. On the weekend, we've got that mailbox maybe we want to replace. You go down to Lowe's and go get a new mailbox, you're going to dig a hole and put it in. I can't tell you how many times that shovel was a great locator to find our gas line that goes to your house. And you thought that $39 mailbox was a great buy, and now you've got a bill of $500 to $1,000 to pay for our people to come repair that line. So please call us. 811 is a national number, just like 911 for emergencies. 811 is the national number. Call before you dig. It's free. We'll come out there. Everybody that has anything will come out there and mark it for free.
Rich, could you talk about, and I know we don't have pipelines as big as what we're talking about, but you're the one that mentioned the older infrastructure. Could you talk about what we've done to be proactive about the older infrastructure?
The first pipelines that were installed in this country were made out of, well, the first ones were made out of wood, and I don't think any of those are in service. The second material used was cast iron. Cast iron is a great material. It actually has a long life, but it's brittle. Especially as what happens to cast iron as it gets older, the steel and the iron that's in the cast iron rusts out and it leaves carbon and becomes very brittle, subject to breakage and then a lot of leakage. When I got to Rocky Mountain 14 years ago, we still had some cast iron pipes. We worked hard. We spent some of our money to replace those cast iron pipes. We have removed all those cast iron pipes. We've also removed all of our bare steel pipelines. That was the second generation that got installed. As our industry, we're learning about what you could do and couldn't do. So in Rocky Mount, we no longer have the cast iron pipelines, we no longer have the bare steel pipelines. Everything is either cathodically protected wrapped steel or plastic.
One last question. After your scoping, you actually rerouted part of the line in Nash County around an old land hill in Red Oak. The current, do you anticipate any other changes? Is that what's going to Washington? Is that the final route?
No, it's not a final route. We are still making adjustments, and later this year, we will file that FERC, but our recommended route is based on all the investigations and feedback that we've received. And then FERC, at the end of the day, could tell us to go elsewhere, to avoid this or avoid that. And that's a long, long process. And there will be another time when FERC will come through and hold more public meetings. At some point, FERC will issue a draft environmental impact statement on the project. Then FERC will come out again and hold a series of meetings in the communities so that anyone can come and comment on the draft environmental impact statement at that time before it goes for a final decision with the commissioners of FERC themselves.
The option of not doing the pipeline, what are the options if we don't do the pipeline?
If we don't do the pipeline, what are the options?
Yes.
Well, the options would be to go along, as has been the case with constrained supplies of gas, subject to potential price spikes when it's cold in certain areas, the prices will really run up, and the limited supply of gas will go to the highest bidders. Limits on the ability to attract industries that are very gas intensive, being more susceptible to a major outage should it happen on the line that this part of the country is very dependent upon.
And if I could just expand upon that, we have seen those price spikes on those cold days we had in February. Transco will issue what's called an operational flow order. And that says, we've issued this because there's so much usage of the gas on our pipeline. You, as operators and users, have got to make sure whatever gas you're taking, you're having a supply put on. And if you don't, there are huge penalties. Well, as you can imagine, the price gets very expensive because you're buying gas on the spot market there. It's just the daily price of gas. The price of gas we're paying right now is somewhere around $3, $4. On those cold days this past winter, it spiked to $40. And as you know, those costs get passed on. The other thing, Duke has made a commitment to replace those coal-fired old generation plants with natural gas. Well, they're using natural gas right now. It's coming from Transco. They will continue to use that supply off of Transco, so that jeopardizes our supply in the future also.
Anyone further?
In Southern Nash County, in the Middlesex area, where we have a large corporate center, I assume that the natural gas for that would come from Piedmont, is that correct?
Not sure. I believe that I've had some conversations with some people about extending our gas lines to Middlesex, but I don't believe that that industrial park has come to fruition yet that we've talked about. I don't believe Piedmont is near Middlesex. But if you see me after, we can talk on.
Well, I mean, I definitely this gas line will be a positive for us in Southern Nash County because we don't have any natural gas, and obviously it's a concern for the amount of gas is less available now. We've got 600 GPA on our set aside 264 for a corporate center. That has the ability to have 1 million square feet under the roof for one facility. And 11 or 12 other facilities around that on half the property, not all of it. So there could become a very big need for natural gas there. That is one of the things that we don't have and make that site certified. So sure, I think it's a very positive impact there.
From a safety perspective, how does the valving work on the pipeline? What increment of distance are you able to shut off the gas in the case of an emergency? Like what is your, I assume you decide how far apart the ability to shut down?
Right, or remotely shut down the gas if something happens and you cut off supply to the area. I'm going to be honest, I don't know what that increment is. I've heard it lately from our engineers and I just can't repeat it right now, so I don't want to guess. Department of Transportation agency that regulates us for safety.
And they're set up, if they detect a rapid depressurization, they will slam shut. And I don't know what Dominion specs are that they're building this. I'm sure some of it depends upon the actual location of the area, the size, the pressure, all those things.
Right, you have different safety regimes if you're going through a populated area, your schools, hospitals, versus the middle of Pennsylvania, where no one lives for 100 miles in the forest. You ramp up your safety program around the population, the high consequence areas, as we call them.
There's been, because of the lower prices both with oil and natural gas, there's been discussion about the fact that it's getting to a price point that it's making continued exploration or even operation of some facilities cost prohibitive. Would this project actually help reinforce the fact that these facilities would become more viable, particularly in the northeastern United States? Or is that really an issue with the natural gas supply in that area?
I'm not exactly sure what you meant, but let me answer it this way. We had FERC scoping meetings in West Virginia Tuesday and Wednesday night of this week, and I was up there for those. Many producers came out and said, FERC, please approve this project as soon as you can. We have a lot of gas here. We don't have access to get it out of the state to where the markets are. And therefore, the price they're being paid is compressed because there's just not enough pipe getting out of West Virginia and Pennsylvania. Therefore, drilling pulls back, rigs get laid down, and people get laid off. So they're thrilled. They look at this as a different than you do. Down here, you look at it as a way to get gas. Up there, they look at it as a way to get their product to market. I think the number of rigs drilling for natural gas in the U.S. right now is at its lowest point in a decade because prices are so low, but yet production of gas is at maybe its highest level ever.
Yep.
It's crazy, but it's the prolific nature of these new shale plays.
I guess another question I have, there's been discussion about, of course, providing for fracking and other technologies here in North Carolina for extraction. Would this pipeline connect into those potential supply sources?
This interstate pipeline will not make it more likely that production would take place here. This is an interstate pipe under high pressure. If there were wells being drilled nearby, and I don't think that's being considered, I think the potential area is west of here, where people are buying some leases and they're going to poke some holes and see if they can find some gas. You would have to take the gas and build massive facilities to increase the pressure to put it onto this interstate line. You wouldn't do that. You would put it onto their system or other gas utilities.
Anyone else? Yes.
How deep do you put in the pipeline in the ground and what impact will it have on habitat in the area? Big steps on that, because I know something about this to talk about.
Yeah. We'll have at least 3 feet of dirt on top of the pipe. That's minimum. In areas that will be farmed or we know heavy equipment will go over, maybe 4 feet, maybe 5 feet for road crossings. If we go underneath a stream, we directionally drill underneath, there will be more cover on top. In terms of habitat, it's a 50-foot wide area. We maintain it. We don't use chemicals and sprays. We mechanically keep it cut as needed. There will be, well, in fact, I've learned recently about something called pollinators in North Carolina. One of the extension service agents has talked to us about it. They're very interested in it. I don't know if people realize that the number of monarch butterflies in this country has plummeted recently. And that's a bad thing. And of course, bees also. You've probably heard about the number of bees, and we need those to pollinate crops. There's a potential to plant certain types of plants on this right away that attract and support pollinators. So we're exploring that with this gentleman in Grand Cross to see if this is kind of a pilot project that we can do here in other
expand on directional drilling. Years ago, if you were going to cross a stream, build a pipeline, you would build cofferdams, you would dam up that stream, maybe dig a channel for the water to continue on as you dug through that stream bed. Of course, you're upsetting that environment at the bottom of that stream bed, as well as that area right adjacent to the stream, which could be wetlands. Directional drilling is just this wonderful technology that industry has just embraced. Instead of damming up that stream and possibly causing environmental action, you go back far from the stream, and you've got equipment called a directional drill, and you drill down underneath, and you can control that depth and left, right, where it is. So you go beneath that stream bed. You don't impact the stream. You don't impact the wetlands. And it's just a wonderful way to help be environmentally responsible.
Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you both for coming and enlightening us on the gas project. I know everybody's been reading about the paper and you answer a lot of questions. We appreciate your being here. I also want to thank again our sponsors,